We've been talking about inclusion and diversity, and now we're going to talk about money. And now some of you know that I've built a career talking about money. It's very fortunate, however, that we have a woman who has built a career being very successful at building a company and making money. So Michelle and I are going to talk, but I just, you know, pay equity's been a thing for me for a long, long time, since I started in the building next door, and they said, well, we don't train girls to be brokers, but we'll let you, if you train on your own, if you take the correspondence course and you pass the test, you can be a registered secretary, and we'll give you a $5 a week raise to $105 a week. And that's how long ago I started out and started noticing the fact that men got stuff that women didn't get. So I thought we were beyond that, and recently I wrote a column about pay equity. It was triggered by the announcement that Harriet Tubman would be on the first woman on the $20 bill, and I wrote, with all due respect to Harriet Tubman, it's not so important what picture's on the bill, is that we have an equal amount of the money in our pockets. And and I would stop right there, except as I got up this morning, and we sort of had notes planned this, today's front page of today's Wall Street Journal, in case you didn't see it, the headline just below the fold is, Pay Gap Widest for Elite Jobs. Women in white-collar careers see biggest gender disparity. On average, American women earn less than their male peers. Highly educated women fare worst of all. In 446 major corporations, a journal examination found that women in many elite jobs earn well below men. Professions such as doctors, compensation managers in corporate America, who should know, and personal financial advisors. Among those, I'm quoting you right from the journal, showing the biggest gap. Now, so I read on. It goes on, by the way, for a full page inside. I won't read you that, but there was a Harvard researcher, an economics professor. I was delighted to see that she was a woman, Claudia Golden. So I was waiting to see her research. Found in a paper that men and women earned almost the same salaries right after receiving University of Chicago MBAs. But a decade after graduating, the women earned 57% of what their male classmates had earned. And the attribution of this, many had stopped to raise families. Many had taken a more circuitous path about ours because of family responsibilities. And the smoke was coming out of my ears, and the journal in the end said, well, what we really need is more appropriate child care and available child care and parental leave, which men should take as well as women. So yeah, I can applaud that. So we're fighting the same battles. You know, women, we got the vote less than 100 years ago, and 40 years ago we had pay inequity, and it hasn't changed. So what do we have to do? We have to build our own businesses. I think that's it. Michelle, right? Then you can pay yourself. Tell me about your business first. What's your business?
Well, Vaughn Technologies, we design and deploy network infrastructure for organizations to help them with the bandwidth issues that we have with all these wonderful devices, whether they're wired or wireless, your iPads, your laptops, your phones. And then we also monitor and manage it for them so they can focus on their business instead of worrying if they have access to the data or can exchange the data that they need.
How many employees do you have?
A little over 100, full and part-time across the country.
Are they paid
Equally.
Why be surprised?
And Terry, I know those articles are so hard to digest. You know, there are so many studies and so much overwhelming evidence that businesses benefit from diversity. It's as a matter of fact, you love your research. I brought a few stats myself because I love these. There were some researchers at MIT and Carnegie Mellon. So they found that teams that included women were more successful at logical analysis. That's not surprising, right? coordination, planning, and problem solving. Also, this one I really like. Peterson Institute found that 30% female representation on a board can add up to 6% margin to your net profit. I think anybody would enjoy seeing that. But real life, what does that mean? Let me tell you what happened in the automotive industry. When they went and released their voice recognition software,
In the
major
car,
flaws
when you say phone.
in the car.
Yeah.
Major flaws. It did not recognize women's voices. The team that developed this
nothing
was
new.
mostly men. Now, I imagine if there were a few women on that team, they probably said, you know, I don't sound like you. Let me give it a try. Can you imagine the money they would have saved?
That is, you know, suddenly, this is the year, by the way, that this has become, you know, gender disparities and gender pay have become a business issue and an election issue. Let me point this out from the column. This is the year that corporate proxy statements have suddenly had to take notice of gender pay equity. Amazon, did you read those headlines? Intel and Apple have all been forced to publicly address this issue. In the case of Amazon, the SEC ruled that shareholders had a right to post an equal pay resolution on the ballot for their annual meeting. And the Wall Street Journal itself, which is probably why you see this article on the front, was confronted by its own employees and had to admit that they had unequal pay. It's become a business issue, and now, whichever side you're on, the issue of how women are paid is going to become a very big political issue this year.